What's going on, everyone? Cannabis Express 420. Today, I want to talk about a couple reasons why your seeds may be having trouble germinating, why you might be having trouble germinating your seeds. Germinating can be difficult, especially if it's your first time growing. It can lead to a little bit of trouble, but hopefully, with these couple of tips I can give you, you can either not run into these problems at all or solve these problems in the future for yourself when you're growing new seeds. So without further ado, let's get into thing one that you may be doing wrong is just not keeping the seed moist enough. When you go into the germination process, it is the process of the seed absorbing water and softening up while at the same time feeding the taproot inside of it, and then the taproot feeding off nutrients inside the seed, and then eventually popping out of the seed and then starting root growth, where it will eventually grow the plant. It will sprout out of the soil and then drop that seed casing off very early on. So obviously, if you're not keeping the seed moist enough, whether you're using the paper towel method or you just put it into your growing medium, you need to keep it moist until you see the sprouts coming out. And when you're doing the paper towel method, you're going to want to wait until that taproot reaches about an inch long and then put it into the growing medium. And then very soon after that, you'll see it pop out of the soil. But if you put it right into the growing medium itself, just wait until until the plant sprouts, and then you will slow down your watering at that point. But until then, you're going to want to keep the growing medium or paper towel moist until you start seeing growth. Number two, it's too cold. You need to keep the seed warm. When you get into the cold area, usually it's fine as long as it's above like 65, 70 degrees and lower than 80 degrees. But if you live in a place like Michigan, and right now it's November and super cold, and I just let the window open, it obviously would have a lot of trouble germinating. Now, they need to be stored in a cool, dry place, but a cool, dry environment simply is not optimal for your seedling to germinate. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to close the windows if it's too cold outside, and then maybe put a heater on. Make sure that the temperature is regulated. Don't let it get too extreme, but you're going to want to keep it warm. A general rule of thumb is if you're comfortable in the temperature and humidity, your plants are most likely comfortable in the temperature and humidity. That especially applies in the vegging and flower stage, where the humidity needs to be down a little bit more, which we'll probably talk about later on when I do a seedling video, but for now we're focusing on seeds themselves. Number three, you're either exposing your seed to too much light or you're exposing the seed to too much oxygen. Now, this ties into something that happens when you grow with fabric pots. It's called air pruning. And what air pruning is when a root reaches the edge of the pot and it starts to grow out of the pot. It will then get hit by the light and a giant influx of oxygen. Roots need a certain amount of oxidization. However, this is very low and a small concentration. When it's actually inside the pot, you get a little bit of airflow, a little bit of oxygen exchange. The roots like that. But once they get out into the air and it's a lot more oxygen than they're used to, and at the same time they're getting hit by their light, it will not grow. So if you are growing in an environment where your taproots are exposed to light and they're exposed to oxygen, this especially applies to the paper towel method. If you're just leaving it out in your room, you could run into this issue. So putting it into a drawer of some sort, whether it's like a dresser or an entertainment center or otherwise some sort of cabinet, to give it its own environment to be not exposed to oxygen because it's covered by the paper towel, or eliminating the light factor as well. That is another thing that will hopefully accelerate and make your germination odds better. As long as you're buying from a reputable seed bank or breeder online, you should have zero trouble germinating seeds. I have a very high percentage success rate. Not a flex, it's just to show how easy it is, because I've grown quite a bit of cannabis plants over the past 3 years that I've been growing, and I have had very little trouble with germination. And these are some tips that I definitely stick to when I'm doing the germination, and I hope they help you guys. If you're having trouble with germinating your seeds, just keep these tips in mind. I'm sure I'll come out with more if you guys like this video. But other than that, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much.